Hi, I'm Alicia from Be Mobile, and in this video I'm going to answer the question, is lifting weights safe for your pelvic floor? This is a really common and worthwhile question to ask. There is currently no evidence that strength or resistance training in itself is harmful to your pelvic floor. In fact, some research shows that strength training combined with pelvic floor exercises results in a greater reduction in stress incontinence compared to pelvic floor training alone. However, experiencing symptoms like stress incontinence, which is leaking with physical activity or movement, is very common. If this is something you're experiencing, it's more than likely that the load you are placing on your pelvic floor currently exceeds the tolerance of your pelvic floor muscles. So, I'm going to run you through a 3-step process of what to do if you're experiencing pelvic floor symptoms, how to find an entry point into weight training that is manageable for you, and lastly, we'll evaluate the progress of your training and do a cost versus benefit analysis of whether you should continue. If you're experiencing pelvic floor symptoms, step number 1 is going to see a pelvic health physiotherapist. Whether it's stress incontinence, prolapse, pain, or anything that you're unsure about, it's very important to go and get an individual assessment. A pelvic health physiotherapist will hopefully be able to identify the source of your symptoms, and there's also a number of strategies that they can employ to help you. One of which might be pelvic floor training. We highly recommend doing pelvic floor strengthening exercises as they've been shown to reduce the incidence of symptoms like stress incontinence. So make sure that you're doing your regular pelvic floor training. Step 2 is getting started with our strength training at a point that is manageable for you. So we can often manage pelvic floor symptoms in the same way that we manage pain, and that is by modifying exercises to reduce our symptoms. So let's take a look at the squat and stress incontinence as an example. So I'm going to grab my 8-kilo medicine ball here and I'm going to perform a squat. So here's a side-on view. I'm doing my squat, but I notice that when I'm doing this, I'm experiencing some symptoms. So the first thing I'm going to try is reducing my weight. So I'll pop down my 8-kilo ball, and now I'm going to try my 4-kilo ball. And if that reduction is not enough, I can put that aside and go all the way down to body weight. So just doing a body weight squat now. If that is not reducing my symptoms, the second thing I can try is reducing my range of motion. So from side on, my full squat would be coming down this deep, and what I'm going to do as an alternative is just doing a shallow or mini squat just like this. If I'm still noticing that I'm experiencing stress incontinence, the other thing that I can do is select another exercise entirely. So we're going to look at a couple of options here. The first thing that I'm going to try is a sit to stand. So I'm going to use the box here. You can use a chair at home. And I'm going to do a sit to stand exercise like this, which is less load than a squat. And another option that I'm going to try is a bridge. So with the pelvic floor, when I'm in a vertical or upright position, the pelvic floor is working harder because it's working against gravity. So if I come down on the floor into a horizontal position, I'm taking gravity out of the equation. So with the bridge, I'm going to lie on my back and I'm going to raise my hips up towards the roof like that, lifting the hips up. And I can also progress this exercise by adding weight. So I'm going to grab a dumbbell here and lie back. I'm going to put the dumbbell on my hips and lift up into a bridge position like this. Okay. So they are the same ways that I would manage pain. So the first thing I can try is reducing the weight. The second thing I can try is reducing the range of motion. And the third thing I can do is select another exercise entirely. And as you build up and progress, you can look at trying the original exercise, which in this case is the squat. Now, these principles can be applied to any exercise in your program. Step 3 is evaluating the progress of your strength training and then doing a cost versus benefit analysis of whether you should continue. Now remember, it can take weeks, if not months, for strength adaptations to occur. So you want to allow yourself time to develop more strength, tolerance and coordination in your pelvic floor muscles. Then you want to ask yourself, how is your strength training going? What impact is it having on your pelvic floor symptoms? If your symptoms have gotten worse, we would strongly recommend seeing a pelvic health specialist one-on-one, so hopefully they can troubleshoot what is going on. If your symptoms have gotten better, fantastic. Keep gradually progressing your strength training. But what if your symptoms have stayed the same? Despite ticking all of the boxes, seeing a pelvic health specialist, doing your pelvic floor exercises, gradually building up your strength training with modifications, well, what do you do then? Ultimately, the choice is up to you, but we would encourage you to look at the pros and cons of engaging in resistance training to help you make your decision. We know there's a host of benefits associated with strength training. Just some of these include increasing your muscle mass, strength and bone density, and also reducing your risk of diseases like heart disease, diabetes, and many cancers. Potential cons of strength training might include feeling distressed or embarrassed in relation to experiencing pelvic floor symptoms. It is worth noting that there is no evidence that occasional leaking without worsening, for example, is harmful to you or your pelvic floor muscles. And some of you might notice that you experience stress incontinence regardless of whether you strength train or not. There is no right or wrong answer as to whether you should continue to engage in strength training if you're experiencing occasional pelvic floor symptoms. It is your personal choice to make. We hope that the information that we've given you in this video can help you make a more informed decision. So to recap, lifting weights is not inherently harmful to your pelvic floor muscles. If you are experiencing pelvic floor symptoms, such as leaking, number 1, go and see a pelvic health physiotherapist. Number 2, gradually build up your strength training and modify exercises if necessary. And number 3, evaluate the progress of your strength training and weigh up the pros and cons of whether you should continue. We hope this video has been helpful.